Hello, folks. Welcome to Got Your Back, live stream edition. I think we're up. On both Twitter and on YouTube. We've been having some troubles with YouTube figuring that technology out, but I think we just might have gotten there today. Jason Strudwick going to be joining us in just a moment. Going to break down the Oilers and the Columbus Blue Jackets last night. Tough point to lose, hey? Bottom team in the NHL rolls into town. You're on a 6-game heater, and you drop a point. Ugh. Kind of a kick in the pills for Oiler fans. A reminder that Got Your Back brought to you by Mr. Dirk, located just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Mr. Dirk is your one-stop shop for all your clothing needs. If you're a businessman looking to sharpen up that look around the office, go see Sterling or Dan. Anybody over there at Mr. Dirk, they'll take great care of you. As Struddy learned, wide selection of amazing suits, shirts, ties, shoes. They can help you make that statement that you are at the top of your game. That is Mr. Dirk, just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. All right, where is Struddy? There he is. Struddy, you got me.
I gotcha.
Nice.
Loud and clear.
I like it when stuff works.
It helps. It helps the podcast.
It definitely helps the podcast when things work. By the way, we're going to do something different at the end of today's podcast too. And this is more for the people that are on the stream or that'll be on YouTube with us. I get asked some questions about the way the mechanics of the podcast actually work. So I shot a little video giving people kind of a tour of my podcast studio, the different pieces of equipment I have, the way that they work and the way that it all comes together for producing a podcast. So when we wrap up today, I'll end the stream by taking you on that little virtual tour. Struddy, you don't need to sit through it because I know that you don't care. You just want to sit down and talk hockey, and you don't care about the buttons that I push.
I just talk into the mic. That's really all. That's all I need. I don't need to know the magic. You're the Wizard of Oz. I'm not even Dorothy. I'm nothing. I just walk up and just start talking.
It is your job to be showered,
right? Having
worked out, and ready to go with some good hockey talk, and you don't care about the rest of it as long as the check's clear, hey?
That's important. If they start bouncing, so do I.
Yeah, exactly. What'd you get up to this morning?
Bit of a unique morning, actually. My wife, we've been working on it, or she's been working on it for 3 years. She became a Canadian citizen this morning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's why a little bit later start.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Shona.
Yeah, it was a good day and actually quite emotional. So good. It was good. So now she's in there. So it's quite, and you can't watch direct feed. She can watch. I had to watch from the side, but you could see it was quite emotional for many people because there's many countries represented. There were
a lot of new Canadians.
Yeah, very exciting, and you can just see the pride, right, and the excitement.
Yeah. So just quick explainer. Where did you guys meet? Where is she from, and what was her situation before?
Yeah, so we met in Chicago, and then I made it clear I was coming back to Edmonton. Like, this is my home. I love it here. Yep. And so we were coming, so she was fine with that. And then, you get a permanent residency card is what happened. We got married and you get a permanent residency card. And she had that for many years. And then she decided to get, and I didn't force her, you can live on that permanent residency, and I think indefinitely, I think. And then she decided she would get her citizenship. So she started, I think, mid-pandemic or just before the pandemic. And anyways, here we are. 2 or 3 years later, she's got it. And so now we're all Canadian citizens.
That's very cool, man. Well, congratulations to Shona. That's a big day in the Strudwick household. Very, very cool. So like I said before, we are streaming here, and we'll try and take your questions if you have any for us on Twitter, or I'll try and monitor the live stream here too. If you have any questions, feel free to chuck them into Struds and I. After that game last night, not sure how Oil fan is feeling. Probably not great. And after a couple of weeks of feeling so good about your team, and then the bottom feeders of the league roll into town, and it's just like, wah, wah, wah. So a bit of a tough one there. We're also going to talk about Vladislav Gavrikov. So he's a name we've been talking a lot about in trade talks around the Oilers. He would be the rental option. No contract next season, straight up rental. If you want a short-term fix, more of a defensive style, he would be that guy. Not sure the Oilers want a rental, but in our takeaways segment coming up in a bit, we're going to deal with what we saw from him and how he might potentially fit. But for now, let's get to breaking down last night's game, and that is brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. The breakdown is they supply some of the nicest maintenance-free fencing and decking products out there. If you've always had that wood fence or that wood deck in your backyard, and year by year you're watching it just get more and more dicey, and you know a bunch of work is coming your way, think about going with maintenance-free, because you don't have to stain, you don't have to sand, there's no upkeep at all. It really does look awesome the day that it goes in, and it stays that way. It's just great-looking stuff. So DLR Vinyl Products has locations in Calgary and in Edmonton, so definitely give them a shout. Okay, Struds. I don't know. Trap game? Is a trap game a thing? You're feeling good about yourself, 6 straight. Mm-hmm. Bottom team rolls into town. Is there such a thing as a trap game, pal?
After the game, all the players and coaching said that they were ready to go. But I think it's natural to have a bit of a letdown. I do think there's a little bit, but I think Oilers fans should be more worried. Is it a trap game if there's such a thing exists, or have the Oilers play kind of gone sideways? Because the first one would be, what it means is you come back Saturday, you play a really good game, and you put the Blackhawks, down, and you get 2 points.
Yeah.
The second option would be very concerning, because that means that those that win streak of 6 games was the kind of just a lucky streak, rather than them actually getting back to the way they need to play. So, trap game or not, you should actually hope you hope that they come back and play really well Saturday night, because then that is indeed meaning it's a trap game and not their games dropped off again.
Yeah. So what we saw from them last night, it was interesting. Like, couldn't complete a pass, turnovers. Like, there were these little worms that infested their game last night that you would think after a couple of days off and a few practices, you maybe stay sharp to a degree. But where did the polish go, Struddy? It just disappeared from everybody.
Yeah, it was just a little bit off, right? Guys are falling, passes not quite there, like face-off wins that, you kind of lose. I thought Skinner was solid. I didn't think Skinner had any issues. So let's not include a goalie in this skater conversation. And then, I thought they got separated again. I thought that there was some distance between the D and the forwards again on the regroup. And I just don't think that's the way they should play. I don't like that style. It's a lot of work for the D, and you're hoping for the forwards. So you're 100% right. Then on the other side, though, I can take you through what it's like to be on a bad team, and you're playing a big offensive team like the Oilers. You kind of start out the first few minutes, and you're like, oh, man, they're all over us.
Yeah.
But our goalie's kind of holding us in there. You know what? We might actually have a chance tonight, guys. Like, This might actually happen. You know what? Let's try to have a couple good shifts of our own. And then he starts thinking, guys, these guys are a little bit off. They're not really feeling today. Let's get it going. Our goalie's playing well. These guys are off, and we're in this game. And I think, and then they score right off of a lost D zone face off, not getting in the shooting lane. And boom, all of a sudden you're like, guys, we got a chance tonight. And the worst thing you can do to a bottom feeder is give them hope. Hope is the worst thing. And I've had it before on bad teams, and I've had it crushed, absolutely crushed in 5 minutes. Like, it's not happening tonight, guys. Let's just try to mitigate the damage and not chew too many minuses here as we play this game tonight.
Yeah, and I think what can happen at the same time is you give them hope, but then you also start to maybe feel the stress of, oh, no, no, I don't want this to happen, right? You get down to a team like that, and now you've given them an opportunity to believe a little bit, and now you're playing the game a little more stressed out and a little bit more nervous. Like some of the mistakes that we saw, I'll point to Evan Bouchard, because I thought it was one of the rougher nights we've seen him have just from a puck management standpoint. He was pretty messy, but he certainly was not the only one. The interesting thing to me, though, Struds, is that there were 2 days between games. And Jay Woodcroft likes to have these skills practices. And I think they're a good idea. I do. I watch them. They separate the forwards and the D onto separate surfaces, and they work on individual skills. And I think they're a good idea to do a few times through the year. You tell me if you think this would matter. They went team practice on Monday, skills practice on Tuesday, where they were separated into different groups, optional skate Wednesday, and then game Wednesday night, and the connection between the forwards and the D was just a mess. Would it have made sense to have gone skills practice on Monday, full team practice on the Tuesday to get everybody together, and then optional Wednesday and game night. Do you think that would have made a difference if you'd had the full skate with everyone together on the Tuesday, where the D and the forwards are working together and passing pucks, or is that minutia that doesn't matter?
No, I think that flow makes sense in my mind, right? I think that flow makes sense. Now, in reality, what Jay's probably trying to do, manage the energy. So it was probably a harder skate on the Monday, and then the skills skates tend to be a little bit lighter, and then again an optional Wednesday morning. So I think he is thinking managing energy more than managing the flow of a practice. So I would like it the other way, 100%. But I think that if you were to ask Jay, over a old fashioned in a bar, that's what he'd tell you he was trying to do.
Yeah. Comment here on YouTube from Straight Off the Pipe podcast. Oh, another podcast listening into our podcast. Thanks, Straight Off the Pipe. I heard there's a sale today on leftover turnovers at the Ice District.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was a tough one, straight off the pipe.
I feel like when you're turning over, a couple things happen. One, you're not moving your feet and you're passing from standing still. I think we saw that from Bouchard last night.
Yeah, for sure.
Standing still, making passes. That's a dangerous game to play. The second thing is understanding where you're on the ice. I didn't like it as a player, and I don't like it as a coach. When my players try to make a play crossing their own blue line, or the offensive zone blue line. It's a very dangerous area to happen. There's lots of sticks in that area, and everyone's, and if you get a turnover there, it can come right back at you. You're better off to take that puck. If you need to, chip it behind. And Tyson Barrie talked about it. He said, we were stubborn tonight. We didn't always want to bump it behind them. So chip it behind them, go and get that puck, or whether it's the blue line of your own blue line, D-man standing up, or on the other side. But they were trying to force passes, hit a guy's stick or skate and just go right up to their D-man. Like, it's just a simple game. And especially when you are thinking, let's say the first 10 minutes, like, no, guys, we don't quite have it tonight. We're not as sharp as we want to be. Let's manage the puck. Let's manage it and keep moving forward. It doesn't mean dump and chase. Like, that's not, it is mean you're just putting it forward into areas where your buddy can go and get it. And now you're in the offensive zone. And when they're offensive zone, the Oilers are actually pretty good. Yeah. Columbus did a good job kind of, making it tough to get to the center of the ice. But that's how I would, want to proceed as a team, because they were just slightly off last night. And that slightly off, that gives Columbus a chance.
Let's get to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. Jay Woodcroft on his team's performance last night.
I saw a lot of bobbled pucks, stick to skate passing, not as crisp as we had been. But saying that, we found ourselves with a 2-1 lead heading into the third period against a team that was competing very hard against us. In the end, we made a mistake and got rolled out of a corner and beat to the net and ended up with only 1 point instead of 2.
So that mistake was from Tyson Barrie, who lost the battle in the corner, got rolled on out of the corner. Interesting, the minutes, Struds. So they've got 4 right shot defensemen in the lineup last night. And so let's run them down. Vinny Desharnais, 1250. Pretty good number of minutes for where he's at right now in his development. Tyson Barrie, 1303 for Tyson Barrie. Evan Bouchard, 1405. Cody Ceci, 2256. So with 4 defensemen on the right side in the lineup, they didn't back off Ceci at all. They had to keep on rolling him out there regularly with his partner in Darnell Nurse. But Barrie and Bouchard, backed off of fairly significantly. Do you think it affects those guys to have their minutes down in and around that level?
Well, I think we got to take into account the lack of power plays, right? So they had 1 power play, and so that's a couple minutes off of Barrie for sure. Maybe Bouchard a little bit as they get out their second unit. I think you're going to have ups and downs as for a minute guy, right? Especially when there's 7 guys out there. You go in knowing you're not going to get all you can eat, because even if someone gets hurt, you're still splitting it 6 ways, right? Yeah. So I don't think it is. I mean, everyone wants to play more. I shouldn't say it. Everyone kind of knows what their ideal number is. Like for me, 15, 18 minutes was great. You get over 20. Old Uncle Struddy started blowing some smoke. Like it was a lot harder because I played every shift like it was game 7, the last minute. I didn't take many off, so it got a little heavy. But for me, it was 15, 18. Now those guys, they're both 20-minute guys. They believe they should be 20 minutes a night.
Right.
Vinny, I'm thinking Vinny's probably right now, the 10 to 15 minute. That's where I'd like to have him. CC, I think he's actually a bit heavy at 22. I like
do.
him closer to 20.
That's my point. It's like they weren't getting enough from the other guys to benefit from having four of them, and they couldn't back off CC because what they were getting from Barry and Bouchard wasn't enough.
Yeah, and I think that's point well made. And I want to touch on that goal though, Marchenko. I love that kind of goal. That to me, it is hockey. The way, that's Sidney Crosby hockey. So he dishes and Barry and the Oilers D-men do this a lot. They go into the corner. So this is their stick. Their stick is in the air. The puck is on the ground. They need to have their stick on the ice, poking away at pucks. But the Oilers defensemen don't do that, and we would never coach that in the Jason Strudwick D-men camp. Anyways, enough of my own personal plug. He gets rolled. Marchenko comes out and drives hard to the net, right below the goal line up. And so Barry's still kind of on him, but so is McLeod. And both guys, instead of tying up a stick, they try to poke away at the puck. All they had to do was lift Marchenko's stick. That's it. They just, McLeod was in a perfect position, lift his stick, doesn't lift it, poking away for the easy solution. Boom. That guy scores a goal against 3 Oilers. And that's a detail that matters. It matters. It might
that's
not matter
like a 3 week ago detail, hey? Like that's something we would have seen 3 weeks ago.
But it's, then if we're on the, now that I'm talking about McLeod, if McLeod ever decides to drive the puck hard to the net with his speed, his game's going to open up.
Yeah.
Because he's right now like $1 million, $1.5 million player. You drive the net to the hard, net hard to the net, you're going $3, $4, $5 million. That's the difference. That is the difference in what he doesn't do. Because Connor McDavid, the best player in the world, does it. And I'm not saying McLeod's as fast, but he can, at least he can be in that same.
He's up there speed-wise.
Area. Yeah. And he refuses to drive the puck hard to the net. And as a coach, I'm like, what are you waiting for? Like if I'm Jay, I'm like, drive you. He gets a half step and then he goes around the net. That's a bailout.
I agree.
Drive hard, create a mess. And sometimes we get a penalty, whatever. Who cares? You're driving the puck hard to the net.
McLeod, I mean, you make such a great point about him, Struds, because his speed, like he's high-end speed guy in the league, really moves well, and he's actually pretty shifty. He's not, he's mobile. He's got nice hands. He actually can make some pretty quick little fast plays. He does a nice job. If pucks come to him in traffic, he can make some nice plays. There is such a great base of skill there, but you made a brilliant point, man. The difference between a guy willing to grab that thing and go to the net and having that instinct be a natural instinct versus a guy who it's rare when he does it, that is the difference for Ryan McLeod. All of the tools are sitting there, and if and when he figures it out, the level at which he'll be able to elevate will be significant, and it'll be fast when he finds that willingness or figures that out.
It's a willingness, there was one, I was sitting up with Gene, and I could see it coming right at me, and he had a little bit of a step, and I've been in that situation in D-man. I'm like, oh man, he's taking the net. Oh, wait a minute, he's going to go around the net. Yeah. What? As a D-man, you're like, thank you for that. You just let me off the hook. And it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt sometimes. Not the guys are getting slashed much anymore, but you might crash in the goal. You might hit the post, but man, is it worth it? Because every 2 weeks you're going to cash a much bigger check. It is a big part of the arsenal that he needs to bring in.
All right, going to go back to the Weiss Johnson mentions here. We want to tell you, though, that with 45 years in the business, should you need a new furnace, garage heater, air conditioner, hot water tank, any of these things serviced, Weiss Johnson is the place to go. They've got some good specials on right now as well. Squeeze them in here before the end of the month. No GST on garage heaters and 20% off all in-stock air conditioners when you purchase a furnace. So you can go see their showrooms. Quite nice. 5803 Roper Road, or give them a call, 780-463-3096. Here is the jingle we all know and love. Weiss Johnson, Weiss Johnson. I want to know who sings that jingle.
God, I wish I had those kind of pipes.
We've been listening to that for years and years. Okay, to the Weiss Johnson mentions here, Chemo Man says they were trying to make those cute little passes like to shoot the puck, like just shoot the puck already. Jay says don't knock the effort. They look sleepy and sloppy. Definitely lack of effort. Dr. Gonzo says, I wasn't sure if those were pro hockey players or master bakers. Oh, that's coming off of the turnover sale at Ice District. I need to weed out the bad jokes here on the pod. I'm kind of reading it all in real time here. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, I want to make a point about Leon Drysdale. We're going to hear from him first, though, in the Weiss Johnson soundbox about his night and something that we saw from the Oilers' alternate captain. Here's Drysdale.
Maybe our chances that we didn't capitalize on. Couple soft turnovers too. Not as sharp maybe as we have been in the last couple of weeks. So take the point, but obviously drop one.
Okay, we saw something from Leon Draisaitl we used to see a lot of, but we have not been seeing too much of this recently, Struds, and that is poor body language. Man, did he ever have a grumpy night out there. Yeah. Pucks weren't going where he wanted them to go. He was dropping his head. Yeah. He was doing this. Like anytime he's doing that kind of stuff, right? That weeds, it gets into his game and infects his game. I think, I don't know if he would be a guy that'd be frustrated at line mates or not, but trying to make things work with Jan, Mark, and Ryan, it was a bit of a struggle at times. There was one time they fumbled it at the blue line and went offside, and he beelined to the bench. Coach hadn't called for a change or nothing. He was just like, yeah, I'm done with this, and just skated off the ice. And I watched Jay Woodcroft, and he kind of had to scramble to tell the next line who to go out there. So I don't want to overdo it because he's not doing this a lot.
Right.
But we saw it last night as much as we've probably ever seen it in a game.
Yeah, it's difficult because as a teammate, he has a huge impact on you, right? There's one player on the team that's better than him, right? And so everyone else is below him. And when you are having, I think personally he had a bit of a tough night. So maybe some of his frustration from that was getting pushed out in different ways, right? So, and the problem is when you're watching as a teammate, I don't know if you're frustrated with yourself or you're frustrated with me or my teammates or whatever it is. And that's a hard one. And that's why as a leader, you've got to really kind of swallow that, right? You can do it, more personally inside the dressing room or go talk to someone, but it does affect the psyche of your teammates because again, he's, not far behind Connor. He's right beside, just on the throne of great players. He's right there. And when you're beating yourself up, or it looks like you're beating up your teammates, doesn't fill them with confidence, man. And that's you don't see a lot of good teams do that. And now it has been really good. He has been very good this year. But again, I don't know who he's mad at. How can anyone tell?
Yeah. Dr. Gonzo says #pissy. Come on, Dr. Gonzo. We've all moved past that now. This is a different season, so we're not going to go there. I'll add to that, Struds, by saying I think part of the problem last night was that I do think we all knew who he was frustrated at because of the timing of it, right? So a pass that isn't on his stick that hits him in the skates, and he's like, a play that he tries to make or a puck that he wanted and didn't get and it gets dumped in and he's like, I think it is pretty obvious who he's frustrated at. And I think that can be problematic. So, when a guy's pissed at himself, it's when he makes a mistake and he's mad at himself and slamming his stick and you're like, oh, he's being really hard on himself. And then when a guy's like, yeah, he's kind of had it with the group tonight. So I thought he was on the wrong side of that last night. But again, I mean, we've seen this from Leon Draisaitl on and off over the years. Right. He's so brilliant and so good on so many nights. When it was playoff time last year, there was none of that. Right. So through the course of an 82-game season, is he going to get grumpy now and then? And is this what it's going to look like? Yeah. If he does it more than once every few months, does it become problematic? Maybe. I don't want to make too big a deal of it because he's really done a good job of weeding this out of his game, I think, for the most part.
Yeah, 100%. And you're right. I do think that I was frustrated with himself. I didn't think he was particularly on point last night, and not to blame the game on him but it just he didn't quite have it. I think that he was maybe just filtering some of that anger out on his line mates. Which
how about that save?
Yeah, that's a good save. I mean,
him.
Give the goalie the read. I mean, he read it, right? He came across and he's like, I'm going to make this happen. And it was a hell of a save.
For sure. Back to the Weiss Johnson mentions. Oh, yes, Canada says Dry does this every January. It's like clockwork. Maybe the All-Star break is coming at a good time for them, right? Sure. And now he's going, so he's got stuff to be doing. But I think they're still going to be able to squeeze some days off and a vacation in there, and maybe that break comes at a pretty good time for this group. Okay, that was the breakdown of last night's game, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Gavrikov is interesting. We've talked a lot about him as a potential rental pickup. And so I know you would have been paying close attention to him last night, Struds. And I definitely want your thoughts on what you saw out there. And so we'll do that in our takeaways segment. And that's brought to you by Sherwood Buick GMC, the number one dealership in all of GMC dealership in all of Canada, 5 years running. I bought a vehicle there not too long ago. It's a great process. I can see why they're as successful as they are. There's no stress. They're very accommodating. It's a great process there, and they've got trucks in stock, which is awesome. So if you're looking for a truck, the Sierra 1500 is absolutely fantastic. I've got the Elevation. They got the big SUVs there, smaller cars, great used inventory, whatever you need. Sherwood Buick GMC. It's the big dealership just off Baseline Road on the way into Sherwood Park. Go see Phil and the crew at Sherwood Buick GMC. What'd you make of Gavrikov last night? What did you see?
Yeah, it was nice to be in the building and watching him. And, you know, it was interesting. We had Jody Shelley on the Gregor show yesterday,
yes.
And we asked him about him. And he said he has more bite to his game than people think. So I was watching him, and it's easy to watch him when you're there. The ISO cam was on him. And I didn't see the bite, or what I believe is bite, from D-Man. You know, I believe the Oilers need a D-Man with some bite, and I don't see it. When I think of bite, I think of Adam Larson. I think of Edmondson. Those are the kind of guys that bring bite, that at times play a little bit in the gray area of the rules. I didn't see that from him. He moves pretty well. I don't think he skates as well as Kulak. He had a pretty good gap, actually. I thought he had a pretty good gap for the most part, which is something I think is important. You know, he made some decent plays, but I was specifically looking for the bite, and I didn't see it, Schauger. So I guess it depends what you're looking for in a D-man. Is he a guy that's going to – is he that much better than Kulak? I don't think he skates as well, and I don't think
many do. Kulak's a brilliant skater.
Right.
Really good.
But it seems like that's what they want. They want mobility in the back end. And I don't see him being that much more bite. So what are you getting for an alleged first rounder? I don't know if it's that much of an upgrade. What did you see?
Okay. I'll challenge you a little bit on the thought process, because if Jody Shelley is telling you this guy plays with bite, what are the chances that maybe last night he just didn't bring it? Because I don't think Jody Shelley throws that compliment around lightly, the way that guy played. So maybe it just wasn't there last night. Like, if Shelley tells me that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take your, you know, I would trust him to know that, right?
Oh, 100%. And that's why I think I was looking for it.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't there. I agree. It wasn't there.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it at all.
Yeah.
Like, even by accident, you think you'd slash someone, right? And I didn't see it. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say he's not a good defender. I'm looking, if you're going to invest significant assets, I want an upgrade. I don't want the same. You've got arguably 4 or 5 third pairing defensemen right now, right? Depends how you kind of, you know, how you want to deploy it. And so if you're going to bring another guy in and cost you a first round just to add to that group, are you hoping he gets hot or someone gets hot?
Yeah.
That's my concern, Schauger.
Played 12 minutes and 12 seconds, 5-on-5 versus Connor McDavid last night, right? He takes the tough minutes. Yeah. Shot share, 5 shots, 4 while he was on the ice against McDavid, 4 shots against. You know, his numbers were fine last night. I agree with you. I didn't see a lot of bite. I'm okay with his mobility. I think he gets around good enough. There were a couple of times in the defensive zone where you sort of saw it, where I thought he read a couple of plays nicely and busted up a couple of corner sort of cycles and stuff like that. But I mean, defensemen are supposed to do that. That's just part of their job. So I think I don't think it was one of his better nights, and I think he was still okay. So, you know, as for the style and the bite, this is more of a defensive-minded player and would be brought in more to help the group defend and not necessarily the puck mover. Did have the one decent rush up ice. If you remember, he grabbed it and skated up ice, got to the offensive blue line, and you know, he hopped up into the play a little bit there. I don't think there's a lot of that from him. Bigger issue for me on this front is the idea that it's a first-round pick. I don't think that the Oilers are in the headspace to spend a first-round pick on a rental. I think this draft is too valuable. And so if you spend a first-round pick on this guy and you haven't talked to him ahead of time, you don't know if you're going to be able to extend him, and he blocks a shot in early April, I mean, you've taken your first-round pick and just, like, launched it into the sun for nothing. I don't think the Oilers' first round pick is in play for a rental. That's my gut on it. That concerns me about the idea of now the positive side is, okay, you're not putting somebody in front of Broberg next year, but rental Struddy, I'm not sure if they're in the headspace to spend big on a rental.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would agree, I would, just to back up my comments, I'm not in the business of bringing someone in who isn't an upgrade, right? Like that is, I just don't know how you could say, and a lot of Oilers fans just want to do something to do it. And I look at Gavrikov. Is he that much better than when Kulikov came in? When I think of the two, Kulikov, I believe, is bigger.
I think people who follow Columbus would tell you that he is. I think people who follow the Blue Jackets would say, yes, I asked, I talked to some people around the organization, and the sense I got was, at playoff time, can he play in your top four? Most likely, based on his overall body of work, not necessarily what we saw last night. Yeah,
and so then if that's it, so then your partners probably stack up like. And well, I guess it pushes Broberg out, so you leave probably CC Nurse, and then, or do you put maybe CC with Gavrikov?
It depends on how you feel about the. Depends on how you feel about the Kulak-Berry situation.
Yeah.
Right? If you really are opposed to that, then the trade you're making is for Bouchard's new partner. For Berry's new partner. And then you keep Kulak and Berry sort of away from one another. But yeah, do you maybe put him next to Cody Ceci or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess it's both. So, is he a clear upgrade? I guess, I'm looking for a player with a little bit more bite. That's what I'd like to see. And I want to see a left-handed Adam Larsson, but I'm not sure Joel Edmondson's that either, because Joel Edmondson, I've talked to some people out there and they think that he could play in your top four. He's just having a tough time on that team.
Yeah.
In a perfect
doing
world,
a lot of mentoring.
Yeah, he'd be my fifth defenseman. That would be a dream come true. That'd be, I wouldn't mind seeing Edmondson and Bouchard together.
Got a bunch of fives already.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. So but at least he brings bite, so then you circle all the way back to Chychrun. Is Chychrun a clear upgrade? Yes, he is a top four defenseman. Whereas with Gavrikov, on a good team, is he a 4? Is he a 3? Because on this team, you're probably looking for a 3. And if you're trading for a 4, that means someone who's a 4 is playing as a 3. I don't think that's long-term success, right? And let's be honest, the road to the finals probably go through Colorado, I'm guessing. And you look at their top 3D, Makar, Taze, Byram, Manson. Are the Oilers even close to that right now?
Yeah. Yeah,
that's a negative.
This is why it always circles back to Chychrun, and we're at 34 minutes here. I don't want to go too long.
No.
But it does circle back to Chychrun, and if you're going to make an upgrade, what helps you defend? A guy who can grab the puck and make a good pass and get it out of your zone, or the big stout defender who can bust up the cycle? It's two different skill sets. He's better at one than he probably is at the other. Does his game get adjusted a little because of where he plays? I mean, he needs to produce offense there, or the team, their chances of winning every night if he's not producing are not great. So I just wonder what he might be capable of if you ask him to adjust his game a little bit and focus a little more on defending. And what kind of a guy is he? What kind of a competitor is he? This is what we know about Edmondson. He's the right guy in the room. Everything I hear about him in the room is he's the absolute right guy, veteran guy, been to the promised land, mentors the young guys, really solid, holds people accountable, everything you want for a playoff drive. The other thing about him is he'll probably play his best hockey of the year in the playoffs. I bet you he will if he's healthy. I would bet on him being better in the playoffs than he is through the course of the regular season. So the Edmondson one is interesting for me because on a couple of fronts, he's a pretty good fit. So him versus Chychrun, that's interesting, Struddy.
Yeah, it's a big decision for Ken Holland. And then you also have to leave wiggle room for Broberg to come in and play. He's here, and where does he squeeze in? Right? If you trade for Chychrun and you have Kulak and you have Nurse and Broberg, there's no room in the end for Broberg. So then you have to move Kulak. So maybe you move Kulak. I mean, would people want to trade for Kulak? Probably, but then Broberg takes that spot, right? Like there's a lot of pieces. It's not as, it's not that easy to cobble it together. Identify what you need and work backwards from there. Then you move people out to make that fit.
Think about a Stanley Cup final against the Boston Bruins, or think about a conference final against Colorado. Like, what do you need to get through that series? What do you need? Make sure you stock yourself up enough that when you're in that moment, you're going, whew, thank goodness we did that. And was it painful? And did it cost some stuff? And is that going to hurt? Yep. But are you ever glad that you have that guy in there? And on a Stanley Cup contending team, you know what you often see in the 5, 6, 7 spot? NHL players that can't get in the lineup, like good NHL players that are battling for spots, right?
Yeah.
Like an ideal world, Struddy, isn't Broberg and Kulak battling for that last spot on the blue line on a really good blue line?
Yeah, you probably are. But if you're going for Chychrun, Broberg might not be here, right? So who knows? Like, I don't know what they want, and that's I'm into a D-man, but it's just I don't want to just fiddle fart around, hope, maybe this is it. Like, look at the Colorado defense. Is Gavrikov the last piece to make the Oilers compete with that D? It's not. He is not. He is not that guy. And that's no disrespect to him.
So you want Chychrun, but you don't want Chychrun. You want him, but you don't want him. But they need him, but they don't. Or
give me something that can you say, yes, I can see this change. I can see this now competing with Colorado, and that's the reality, man. So you got to go through that team. I still believe they're going to get there, and they're going to be healthy, and they're going. And if not, then they're still the people I'm trying to compete with. Because if it's not this year, it's next year. You got to beat those guys.
We really appreciate everybody's involvement here on the live stream. We'll get to a couple more comments here. Parker Waslenko says Broberg has the ability to play both sides. That is true. So in any consideration of him moving forward. Could you shift him over to the right? Sure. But now you got the same problem on the right because you got CC and Barry and Bouchard. And by the way, I don't think Tyson Barrie is necessarily going anywhere. I think he's an important piece in that locker room. I think he's too important to that power play. There's a lot of ideas that, well, if you bring in this type of defenseman, then maybe it's Barrie who goes. I don't see that in the cards, and I don't think that's part of what they're thinking necessarily. I could be wrong on that one. A Jason Smith type defenseman is what Chemo Man says. That's an interesting. Obviously you'd love to have Jason Smith on this blue line.
That's exactly it. Right? That's exactly what I'm talking about. And I'd love for him to play with CC, then give Nurse maybe something, a little bit like a Bouchard, just so he can wheel and deal and do his thing. I don't know. It's Colorado, guys. Colorado.
Think about
that deal.
Shelb Dustin says, I'm not sure I agree with this. Carlson is the only thing that would put them over the top defensively. Huh? I don't know if he helps you necessarily that way.
But he seems to get his career back on track here, and he is a very, very good, talented defenseman. But the money, I don't know how you make that money work. It's about. That's
Barrie, right? We're talking Barrie and Puljujarvi, and then retention and a bunch of assets, and I think that one's a little too complex for that to be a realistic possibility.
Yeah. But I would love to. Carlson, if he can continue up playing at that level, he and Nurse together, I could see that. Now, Colorado, maybe like, all right, and it pushes everybody down,
Yeah. All right, Struddy. Good stuff, man. There's the music. That is our cue. Okay, the podcast, well, the live stream isn't wrapped yet because I'm going to give people a tour of the podcast studio here. I put a little video together. So for those that are on the stream right now, that is going to continue. For everybody just listening in podcast form, I'm going to cut her off here. So Struds, thank you kindly, my friend. Enjoy the rest of your day. And I know the team's going dark for a little bit here after the weekend, but we'll try and still squeeze in a couple podcasts here and there. So we'll check in as we can, my man.
Sounds great. Talk to you guys later.
All right. Cheers, pal. That is Jason Strudwick. Big thanks to our sponsors here on Got Your Back. Mr. Dirk, DLR Vinyl Products, Sherwood Buick GMC, and, of course, Weiss Johnson as well. That'll wrap up the podcast version. For those on the live stream, though, stick with us. Okay, Struds, thanks, buddy. You can bounce.
Okay, buddy.
And I'm going to try and figure out, take care, man. I'm going to try and figure out technically here how to roll this video out of this program. So
sounds good, buddy.
We're still streaming here. Stay with us, folks.
Talk to you later.
Basically, all I wanted to do was just give you a little tour around the studio. I had a few people reach out on Twitter and kind of say, hey man, that stuff's kind of cool. Like, how do you do all that? How does all that stuff work? So here now on the live stream is a little tour of the Got Your Back podcast studio, and then that will wrap the day. So thanks for tuning in, folks. Enjoy the tour. Hey folks, get a lot of questions about the way the podcast works behind the scenes, so thought I would take you on a quick tour of the Got Your Back studios and give you an idea of the way the mechanics of this whole operation go. Quite often I have my good buddy Chris Sabunia with Growler Media in Kelowna. He's the brains behind the operation technically, and he produces the podcasts from a video and audio standpoint. But quite often I end up having to do them on my own, especially if we're doing any sort of live streaming. And so I have a nerve center here with all the equipment that is required. Here you can take a look. Wide view of everything that we have. Multiple monitors, microphone, the whole bit. So we will start over here. This is the brains of the operation from an audio standpoint. My Rodecaster. Control my own microphone here. Jason Strudwick is often brought in through the computer, and so I control his audio level here. Yes, I know sometimes he's too low. I need to be better at that. You'll hear us go to the Weiss Johnson sound box. That's where these buttons come in. Record the clips onto this piece of equipment, and then I can roll them just by the push of a button and control their audio level as well. So sometimes if I roll the clip and you hear it come in really loud, it's because I haven't adjusted the level. So I got to reach over and adjust the level. So I'm doing all that in real time. Up here, the internet, ready to go. Just have my main web browser. There's an event summary from last night's game. Some stats, standings, that sort of thing. So I've got access to a nice big monitor here with all the information that we might need during the podcast. Okay, over to here, down below, we have my iPad, and this is where I keep all of my sponsor reads. Mr. Dirk, DLR, Weiss Johnson, Sherwood Buick GMC. So I keep access to those nice and close. So when I got to do my ad reads, they're just sitting there ready to go. Up here, I have an iPhone, I'm not sure which one that is, maybe an 11 or something like that. That's the main podcast camera, along with the ring light in behind that keeps me lit up. Now, as for the brains of the operation, this here is the Elgato camera hub. And so this is connected to the iPhone. That's where the signal comes in. Now, the camera hub pushes the video signal through to this program, which is called Wirecast. And this is basically where we build the entire show. So down here are different shots that we've built that we can select during the podcast. Over on this monitor is a preview monitor. Over here is what people are actually seeing. So down here in the preview monitor, I can set it up so that we have where are we going here? A single. So you can see it switches to a single shot there. And then I push it over. Oh, it was already on a single. So let's go to a 2-shot. And a 2-shot there. So that's the preview monitor. And then I edit it over and boom, switches in real time over to a 2-shot. Let's say I want to switch to our main title page, put that in the preview monitor, and boom, switches it over in real time. So when I'm doing the podcast and doing the live stream, I'm actually live editing the entire podcast right in the moment and on the fly. It makes it a little bit tricky. Sometimes if it sounds like I zone out a little bit and get a little bit distracted, it's because, well, I kind of am, because I'm worrying about the technical stuff. That's why it's great to have a good partner like Strudwick who can kind of take care of things. Over here is the microphone. I love having a boom arm. This thing is so cool. I can move this thing wherever I want and it just holds steady. So it basically lets me sit wherever I want to sit in my seat, and I can just adjust the microphone to make sure it's exactly where I want it to be. That thing is awesome. Okay, as for the set in behind, I might as well just spin around and show you here. Recently redid some of the set. I put the gray wood paneling in behind just to give it a little bit of a different look. I thought it was a little too stark before, but it's not, like it basically just ends in my office. So it's not exactly really well done, but whatever. It is what it is. There's my Fred Penner lunchbox. I got Chewbacca up on the top shelf. You can't see the top shelf, Darth Vader toaster, and a bunch of books that I would like people to believe I've read. Some of them I have. And then just the simple shelves that are actually visible in the podcast down here. It's a flippin' mess. So for what you can actually see, I try and keep it reasonably organized. And then file, printer, dirty dishes. Yes, it's a working office, and then just my other crap. So over there, I got the fireplace, added that during COVID, and the television. That's where I watch the games. There's Harlow chilling out with me. And so this is the home studio. Golf clubs are there. Cannot wait. Cannot come fast enough. Anyways, that's a tour of the Got Your Back studio. We appreciate your downloads and your subscriptions and your interest. Let me know what you think. Cheers. We'll talk soon, folks.